going to cut my sermon up. I'm not. So this congregation, our congregation, we are entering a period of transition, a period of uncertainty. So it would behoove us to respond with creativity. As we enter into this period of uncertainty, I want you to revel in it, to wrestle with it, to gain power from it, and to discover an insight, and to discover the sacred, saving message with which we will return from it. This is our time in the wilderness. A time to seek truth and to find creativity within uncertainty. So some of you might be asking, Eugene might be asking, what is this period of transition of which he speaks? Well, in fact, the last time you were here, I think we voted to orient ourselves toward moving our location. We have set a trajectory to a future as yet unknown. Meanwhile, our religious education program is undergoing a transition of leadership. Our music director is spreading his wings and lighting out for an exciting opportunity in his home state. And so our choir and music program is about to be in flux. Meanwhile, I've declared, as I said, this summer to be an open liturgy zone. So as you can see, our very order of service is courting and living into this uncertainty. And so we enter the wilderness. The question, though, is this really a transition? Are we truly moving from a state of certainty to a state of uncertainty? Or rather, is it true that uncertainty is all there is, and certainty is but an illusion? Wiser people than I have said it. Certainty is an illusion. And to live in illusion is at best superficial and at worst depressing, deceitful, and dangerous. Certainty is an illusion. But is it? And how so? I mean, what about gravity? What about our orbit of the sun or the speed of light? Are these not certain? Of course, I think if you get far enough away in time and space, or close enough in, even the laws of nature begin to equivocate. But as far as we're concerned, they're certain enough, aren't they? But I think there is actually a revelation in that clause, as far as we're concerned. You see, certainty is not a law, it's a perspective. Certainty speaks to knowledge. And while it is a natural law that everything is relative, natural law is not relative to us. It doesn't really ask our permission or our input. Our understanding of those laws, however, is relative. In fact, all of our understanding is relative because all of our knowledge and understanding is relational. It arises out of the relationship between ourselves and our world. And we are in constant flux. Our understanding arises out of our relationships, and we are in constant flux. Our awareness changes all the time. Add to that our bodies are changing all the time. And on top of that, the social and biological world in which our awareness is in relationship is also in a state of constant change. So certainty is a function of understanding, and ultimately it's a function of self, both of which are in constant flow. You are never the same self twice. So in light of that, I think we're on safe ground saying that certainty is an illusion. However, it is a seductive illusion. Certainty feels good. Feels safe to be certain. It feels powerful to be certain. Unfortunately, it is anything but. Living the illusion of certainty is a recipe for pain. Certainty dulls awareness. It encourages the automatic reactivity system, encourages us to make assumptions. It feeds the elephant of our subconscious in spite of the better judgment of the self-conscious elephant rider. As long as the senses of safety and power are dependent on the sensation of certainty, we're doomed. I'll say that again. As long as the sense of safety and power are dependent on the sensation of certainty, we are doomed. In fact, this is the central question that all religions wrestle with. How are we to take a stand in an uncertain reality? Religion is a response to the uncertainty of life and the certainty of death, which is kind of like the grand uncertainty. Fittingly, creation myths have God subduing chaos, which is the primordial uncertainty. So attributing order to the world, religion, and here we are in a religious institution, is hostile, mythically, to uncertainty. But before we write it off, we must also recognize that religion embraces uncertainty as the place of truth. Recall all the heroic religious figures that have wandered into the wilderness to find clarity and home. There was Moses, who led the Jews for 40 years in the wilderness. Jesus, who sat in the wilderness for 40 days to be tempted. Buddha was enlightened in the wilderness. Old gods subdue uncertainty and chaos. New gods enter into it and out of it. They bring something back from uncertainty rather than subdue it. And religion then can be seen to harness uncertainty psychologically through the myths of the new gods. There is power in uncertainty. Another way religion harnesses uncertainty is by naming it. And this is maybe a bit of a stretch, but I found it to be an interesting thought exercise anyway. The word and concept of God or enlightenment is perhaps a way of investing in uncertainty such that through faith in a more expansive magnitude of identity, God or enlightenment, in a broader identity, one subdues ego and finds coherence and creativity in the constant uncertainty of life. Religion then seeks to create meaning in lieu of, or in lieu of certainty and in the midst of uncertainty. And this means that meaning and certainty are different. Meaning and certainty are different. How so? Meaning is about reflection. Certainty is about expectation. Our pain and sin is not about certainty or uncertainty, in fact, but it's about attachment to expectation. It's about attachment to certainty. And we fill the gap between assumed certainty and uncertain reality with judgments, with shoulds. We fill the gap between certainty and uncertainty with shoulds. But what if we fill the gap between assumed certainty and uncertain reality? The gap between assumed certainty and uncertain reality. What if we filled that gap with curiosity instead of shoulds? Approaching uncertainty with curiosity and openness and acceptance and love leads to a creative response to life as it is, instead of an angry response to life as it should be. This is creative uncertainty. So ever since we came back from Texas, our girls have, well, for a while, we're still operating on Texas time, which meant that they were waking up at 5 a.m. That programmed me to where now I wake up at 5 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m., and sometimes I lay there and am really irritated to be awake. I should be asleep. And then sometimes, like this morning, I thought, you are preaching on creative uncertainty. You shouldn't be saying should. But if I can make that leap to at 5 o'clock in the morning saying, okay, I'm awake. Rumi says don't go back to sleep. I think he's right. What if I said to myself, what can I do at 5 o'clock in the morning? What is available here for me? That changes my entire perspective. That changes my emotional makeup in that moment and possibly my entire day. The thing is, it takes practice. Like a football team practices a long time before they play a game, right? So we have the opportunity to practice also. It's called meditation. Breathing, intentional breathing. Noting your thoughts as they come and go without judging them. Being curious, open, accepting. And try as I might, perfection is not what we're looking for here. We're just looking for progression. I'm just looking for progression. That's my bar. So with practice, we have the opportunity to make meaning in the midst of wilderness by responding to the illusion of certainty with curiosity, openness, and acceptance. We may find sustenance in the uncertainty. Manna from heaven fed the Jews when they were walking through the desert. This is not a reliance on miracle. At least that's not what I'm getting out of that story. It's an acknowledgement, however, of our interdependence, an acknowledgement of grace and a check against ego and an opening into that sensation of global coherence that is possible in the evolutionarily developed mind. What the heck did I just say? I'll say it again. Global coherence in the evolutionarily developed mind. What does that mean? It's a sensation. It's the coherence of your identity, your mind, yourself, internal coherence, and external coherence. When those are all in line, that feels really good. And those don't get in line by relying on certainty that is an illusion. So we can feel good about the certainty of uncertainty because it means that we have to pay attention. It's an opportunity for us to keep an open mind. It means paying attention to ourselves in our relationships. It means paying attention to our reactions. as revelations of where we thought something was certain mistakenly. It means that keeping an open mind and paying attention to ourselves are in fact the keys to our soul. Flexibility, openness, mindfulness, faith in an expansive magnitude of identity, be it enlightenment or God. In these things, one has the opportunity to subdue ego, to find coherence, and that, I believe, feels a lot like soul. We're not trying to eliminate uncertainty. It's impossible to have total control, and we're not trying to embrace uncertainty entirely. We're not looking to abandon ourselves and just be blown by the wind. Rather, we are looking to acknowledge uncertainty and thereby respond creatively to uncertainty and return with some clarity and meaningfulness. We can even revel when events match our expectations, when an out-breath is followed by an in-breath, when the car starts, when our birthday is remembered. We have the power to revel in illusion. We can revel in the illusion of certainty. But we can't be attached to it. That's the dangerous part. And this takes practice, so that when from time to time accidental or intentional uncertainty gives us the opportunity, we may close our eyes to see the wilderness, or clear our eyes, to see the wilderness around us and not be afraid. But through our curiosity, openness, and acceptance, create meaning and find a coherence in that uncertainty which feels like our soul taking deep, full breaths. Curious, open, accepting response to uncertainty is the seat and center of creativity. Unbound by expectation, unleashed, and at peace. Curious, open, accepting. And so we enter the wilderness to find that we have always been there. To find ourselves there. And to bring that ever-evolving relationship that is the self into the ever-evolving rhythm of our days. To experience coherence. To return to the home of our soul. That's what they say. And such is my faith.